Pokémon is the most successful brand in the world, but not every Pokémon game was actually a success. While the mainline games were always huge sellers, despite sometimes lacking quality, the same cannot be said for all Pokémon games. In this video, we'll take a look at some Pokémon games that almost nobody wanted to buy. The Nintendo DS was one of Nintendo's greatest successes of all time. With more than 150 million units sold, there were more than enough Pokémon fans who would have bought anything Pokémon related. Well, almost anything. When the very first Pokémon game for the Nintendo DS was released in 2004, things turned out a little differently. A Pokémon racing game called Pokémon Dash was supposed to impress Pokémon fans with the new capabilities of the Nintendo DS, but ultimately turned out to be a major flop. In Pokémon Dash, you race as Pikachu against other Pokémon by drawing lines across the DS touchscreen with the stylus. During the races, you have to pass several checkpoints and then get to the finish line before your opponents do. There are also a few additional mechanics, such as floating into the air with balloons or swimming across the sea on Lapras. However, what the game completely failed at was being fun. The gameplay was incredibly simplistic, as all you could do was move Pikachu in the desired direction by using the stylus. No items, no fun mechanics, nothing at all. There was no creativity in the actual area designs, making everything feel more or less the same. And out of the around 400 Pokémon available at the time, only a single one was playable: Pikachu. This is despite the fact that more Pokémon were programmed into the game, but could only be encountered as opponents. As a child, I often wondered why I could never find Pokémon Dash in stores, since a Mario Kart-like Pokémon game actually sounded very interesting. Today I know why it disappeared so quickly. It was a pretty big flop. It is considered one of the worst Pokémon games of all time, and failed to generate strong sales in Japan, America, and Europe. And if it hadn't been a launch title for the Nintendo DS in Japan, the numbers would have probably looked even worse. My childhood self can truly consider himself lucky that this game vanished from stores so quickly. Sometimes you're surprised when a game flops, sometimes not at all. When a concept sounds as stupid as watch TV together with Pikachu, you're more likely to wonder who even thought it was a good idea to release such a game in the first place. Pokémon Channel launched for the Nintendo GameCube in 2003, and it is definitely one of the most bizarre Pokémon games ever made. Together with your partner Pokémon Pikachu, you spend 5 days watching all kinds of Pokémon TV channels, and then report back to Professor Oak, who apparently has nothing better to do in his life than listen to the opinion of some random kid about television programming. The game features a total of 13 different interactive TV channels, where you can, for example, take part in quiz shows, watch an anime, or simply purchase new items. It really is one of the most uninteresting Pokémon games of all time, and I can hardly imagine that even the developers had any fun playing it. There was, however, one special feature. After completing the game, players could obtain the mythical Pokémon Jirachi, which could then be transferred to Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire. This selling point was apparently not very convincing, as Pokémon Channel became one of the least successful Pokémon games of all time, with less than 500,000 copies sold. Considering the strange concept, that may not be all that surprising, but do yourself a favor and stay away from this one. You know, sometimes games simply launch at the wrong time, and I'd argue that applies to Detective Pikachu, which launched for the Nintendo 3DS in 2018. Detective Pikachu is an action-adventure game in which you investigate cases together with your partner Pokémon Pikachu. In the roughly 10-hour-long game, you listen to an interesting, surprisingly fully voiced story and solve various puzzles alongside your partner Pokémon. However, Detective Pikachu is without a doubt best known for its movie adaptation, which for the most part follows the same narrative. What's actually interesting though is that while the movie was a success, the same cannot be said for the 3DS game. With less than 500,000 copies sold, it was a pretty big flop. One likely reason is that the game launched in 2018, at a time when the Nintendo Switch had already been on the market for a year, and interest in 3DS games had already declined. It's kind of a shame, because even though I haven't played the game myself, reviews from both critics and fans suggest that it is actually quite solid. Despite the low sales numbers, a sequel released for the Nintendo Switch in 2023, and it seems to also have sold poorly. Whether the Pokémon Company still believes in the success of the game series, or simply wants a template for a second movie, we'll probably never find out, but it's definitely not looking to have a bright future. There's some Pokemon spin-offs where fans wonder why they haven't gotten a new game, until they find out that the other games just simply didn't sell well enough. One such spin-off is PokePark. PokePark is a two-part game series in which you become a Pokemon yourself and experience a colorful, vibrant adventure set in PokePark. The gameplay mainly consists of various small minigames, where you either try to beat high scores or simply defeat opponents in battles. Over the course of the game, you befriend more and more Pokemon, who then help you achieve better scores. While in the first game you could only play as Pikachu, the second installment added the starter Pokemon from Black and White. There was a reason for this though. Unlike its predecessor, the second game was a multiplayer title that allowed up to 4 people to play together. Despite the huge success of the Nintendo Wii, PokePark never became a major hit. While the first game got off to a fairly solid start, sales dropped by more than 40% with the second installment, which may be why PokePark 3 never happened. But still, some people genuinely loved this game series, which makes it almost a shame that it ended after just 2 entries.